So we have a funny story about distinguished engineer and Communist Party in Sun Microsystem, but it's a different story. And Jeff Bear. So Jeff is a general partner in Almas Capital, ex-chief networking officer at Sun Microsystem, and general partner in the USVP. So, so we have, as I understand, Sergey Khodakov. So it is Skolkovo, as you see. And we have Yov Truya, a partner in Jerusalem Venture Partners. So we have, and I would like to have some questions, and after this we will go through questions. We will speak about security, of course, and investment in security. But first my question will be very simple and straight. Everyone needs to tell about your biggest security nightmare. Personal, biggest security nightmare. Okay, you need to use microphone, guys.
I'll start.
But short, we really need to be fast.
Yeah,
and
okay. So, but maybe just one word about.
I know it is Israeli airport for me the biggest security nightmare.
Exactly.
Since you're passing the security is very.
Yeah. So, but maybe just before I tell you about my nightmare, I'll tell you a little bit about JVP, because I'm not sure that everyone is familiar with our firm. So Jerusalem Venture Partners is it's a VC firm. We've been around for 22 years. We manage about $1.2 billion. We've invested in about 110 companies. We've had 28 notable exits, 12 IPOs, all of them on Nasdaq, 16 M&A, for a total transaction value of about $18 billion. And we are investing in cybersecurity since 2001. Some of the names that, and typically people hear about exits, so I'll tell you a little bit about some of the names that you might be familiar with. So a company called CyberArk, which is probably one of the hottest companies today on Nasdaq, traded at about $2 billion, is our latest IPO in cybersecurity. And latest exit, another exit that we did recently in cybersecurity, company called Cyactive that we sold to eBay a couple of weeks ago. So my biggest nightmare, so personally,
yeah, only.
Actually, since I arrived here yesterday at around noon, my cell phone was attacked. The number of times that I know that people try to attack my cell phone was 4 times. Okay, so my cell phone was people tried to spoof Wi-Fi and the cellular networks I'm connecting to.
What type of phone you are using?
I have a Galaxy S6, but in any case, so 4 times. But I know of those 4 times, and one of my companies actually is dealing with software that is able to detect such man in the middle and cellular and Wi-Fi hijacking kind of scenarios. So we're able to detect that. I'm sure that some of the attacks I was not able to detect. But in any case, so in my previous trip to China, I had another Samsung Galaxy phone, okay, which was attacked as well. And while I was in China, and I tried to do different things that you might expect from a layman kind of user, including resetting it, going back to factory defaults. None of that worked. When I finally got some of my technical guys to take care of it, they found that probably overnight I was keeping it open or whatever. A new version of an operating system was installed on the phone, all the way back to, it looked like the latest Android version, but it really wasn't. So that was my personal latest pain with cybersecurity hacks.
Now I understand. Each time after the trip to foreign country, you throw out phone and buy a new one.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
It's a good way to replace your phone.
So to keep going mobile industry.
First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I work for Skolkovo Foundation. Basically, we help new companies, new startups to develop a business in Russia and in the world. Currently, we have about 40 companies that has residency status and that make project in cybersecurity and develop new cybersecurity technologies. If we're talking about nightmares, my personal nightmare, probably 2 weeks ago my email account was broken by hacked, and basically all the contact I have in my mailbox received some virus messages, maybe not all, but many of them. And I received a phone call basically early in the morning, about 7 or 6 a.m. when my friend was calling and saying that there are a lot of viruses is going from my mailbox. So I probably spent several hours to send excuse letters to my partners next day. So it happens probably 2 weeks ago. So it was it obsessed me.
Jeff,
Jeff?
you have too many nightmares.
Too many nightmares. So I used to be a CTO for networking of a company that had only hackers, and we had about 65,000 machines on the network, which meant 64,999 problems. Mine, of course, was perfect. So I think that the cost of these shows is not the cost of your ticket. It is the cost of the fact that I must buy this, and when I go home, this goes in the trash in the airport. You can have it because it is garbage, because this has been compromised. Absolutely, no question. So the nightmare scenario that I had that I was involved with was a little bit different, which is we found that approximately 1 year ago that Anonymous had decided to take down the root name servers of the net. And so we and Cisco got together with Packet Clearinghouse, and we built essentially some GPS-based packet timestampers that also tracked ingress to the network from where these packets came at various. Cisco and ourselves and Packet Clearinghouse worked on 65 peering points, and you'll notice that on May 1st, the root name servers were fine. Anonymous did not crow the fact that they lost this round. So that was a nightmare scenario, which did not come to pass. But there are plenty more out there. So with that, I'll pass to you.
So, Mikhail?
So when we're talking about personal nightmare, for some reason, all the personal nightmares usually related to my wife IT tools. So it's like her email account, which was hacked and then spread it out all the, viruses, spam, etc. So that's related to her tablet. So last time I had to repair her MacBook, which was again hacked by someone. So for some reason.
What is the reason why you got distinguished engineer? Or no?
Managing home IT tools, exactly. So, but because my wife actually represents, typical user in this industry, so I would imagine that such kind of personal nightmare everybody here is having. But talking about my personal nightmare, okay, not talking about IT tools, this is actually marketing. Because as we can see on the market, and when I'm talking to partners, friends, customers, etc., there's a huge gap between reality and marketing. And that can be also dangerous because when every one of you is reading 100 times a day about hackers, you got some kind of immunity of it. And then you really don't care about your real security level or your real, how you can be susceptible to any kind of attack. And that's really trouble for every one of us.
Okay, so we'll move to next. So what specific requirements or set of requirements you have when you pick up to invest in security company? It is more... so it is some different from, or it is the same, or what's actually your specific or not specific requirements?
So I think that cyber security is a little bit different than other categories that we invest in. And we invest also in media technologies, storage, and cloud technologies. But I think cyber is a bit different. So first of all, you see, and we reviewed about 300 companies in Israel in cybersecurity over the last 2 years. We invested in 8, which is actually quite a high ratio. Typically, we invest in 1% of the companies we see here. It's more than 2%. So I think that in cyber, there's, first of all, a different distribution of the quality or the potential size of companies that you see. So, in other categories, you have a normal distribution. So you have, a few bad ones, a very few good ones, and a very fat belly in the middle, which we typically try not to invest in, okay? Try to identify the good ones. In cyber, because of the hype cycle over the last few years, you have a lot of, I would say, mediocre minus kind of companies that are really, they might have good technology, but it's really point technology, meaning that they solve a very niche, very short-sighted kind of a solution. It's not a platform. And what we're trying to look at when we're investing in cybersecurity is the platform potential. So companies that can really become a platform rather than point solutions to solve any specific kind of problems. That's one thing. Second is that we actually invest quite a bit in drilling down into the technology, unlike other categories, as was mentioned by my colleagues here in Cisco, from Cisco. Marketing does its job also on the vendor side in cybersecurity, but we don't believe that it's, from our methodology, it's not enough. So whereas in other categories like internet, mobile, and so forth, marketing can really be a power multiplier for certain companies. In cybersecurity, we invest only in hardcore technologies. The third thing that we're looking for is really companies that have the potential to introduce a paradigm shift into the market in cybersecurity. Let me give you an example, and with that maybe I'll pass the mic. So one of my latest companies called Cyactive is a company that try to predict the evolution of malwares on the internet. So we all know that 99+% of malware are reusing components from previous type of attack. Actually, there was never even a single attack chain that was documented where all the components were completely new. Okay, so there's always reuse. So the question is and that's the basis of the inequality that exists from an economic perspective between the attacker and the defender. It's cheap to attack, costly to defend, right? So what if we can take that advantage away from the attacker? What if we can prevent them from reusing any component? What if we can predict all or the space of all possible permutations of known attack tools? That will increase dramatically the cost, the economic cost of launching an attack, okay? And will put a lot of potential targets, such as my colleague's wife, away from being cost effective for an attacker to actually attack. So that's, if someone was able to do that, that's a paradigm shift in the industry. So that's what we're looking for in companies.
It was really interesting. We view on startups from a little bit different point of view. First of all, we are looking for teams that can create products that have competitive advantage on the market. And from this point of view, for us, it's very important technology and science background of the team. So if and a significant competitive advantage that the product could have. On another point, that the most important issue we face that if a product is faced on a very small segment of the market, the potential of this company, sales potential, revenue potential is usually quite limited. And this is the reason we're looking for other opportunities to use this technology or probably make platform on the basis of core technology. And we spend time to basically evaluate opportunities regarding any certification, basically paperwork that support industry. To introduce new product, companies require a lot of paperwork, a lot of certificate. For probably a security industry, is quite important issue is to explain the customer that exactly what the risk is and how this risk could cost to the company. And for many, I believe, in my opinion, for many new products, customers that could, if customer hasn't have this problem, hasn't lose basically money, they're not ready to pay or maybe will be reluctant to pay. So this issue is first of all to be considered.
So what we look for is something which also is like an AVC for disruptive technology. But what we're really investing in is the team. Because as you all know, there's plenty of bullshit to go around. Marketing guys, engineering guys who tell you how great they are. But the argument that we follow is about 90% of the guys who tell you how great they are have no clue. And the reality is that either you are... I find it interesting. I read in the paper that the US Army is training soldiers to be cyber warriors. The average soldier has as much knowledge of computer science as I have of neurosurgery. So the reality of the situation is we look for a team of guys who have it in their DNA. So I ask you guys a question. The person who is really good at security is not a security guy. He is a generalist guy who knows operating systems, networking, compilers, languages, distributed systems, the fundamentals of how operating systems are built, and how they're actually deployed. And it is always the friction point between an API, an interface to the kernel, with the network interface. It's always that little interface where you find an interesting opportunity or an issue. And it's very hard to find guys who you say, I am a languages guy, but now I'm doing security. No, you're not. If you're a guy who is from the age of 15 grown up playing with OS, with networking, with languages, with compilers, you know. But it's very hard to find those guys. And so what we actually invest in are guys, when we find a team who have those guys, they know. And they know more than me. So that's what we really look for, is guys who not necessarily are 13-year-old idiot savant prodigy. No, no, no. We're looking for guys who, for the last 10 years, they've thought about what is the issue with this particular implementation of a language on this architecture? I know. So those are the people who are very hard to find, and the ideas that are very hard. But when these guys come up with a good idea, there is a guy, for example, who is a really smart guy who did a company called Trusteer, which in my previous company I invested in. You know them. And they said that they're a very simple premise. We'll make a plugin for browsers that makes it impossible to either save the data or to print it or from some external process to access it. And you know what? They did it, and it worked. And they ended up being purchased by IBM for a large amount of money because no one else could figure that out. So that's what we're looking for, is that kind of whimsy, something that's interesting from guys who are not your average guy.
So actually, I'd like to tell you how Cisco is actually buying the startups and criteria to buy them. Okay, so yes, because as you see Cisco history, Cisco bought a lot of company and a lot of companies in security area.
Anyone in Russia?
Not yet. So, and the main criteria, first of all, we are looking to new and fancy technology which can be add on to existing security portfolio. The very important points, first of all, I would say mental compatibility, because it's not only important to buy a company, but it's also important to integrate the forks of that company and technology inside existing company. The next one, or probably the first one, is engineering talent. So product can be, under development. Technology can be fancy, but no real product. But if we have talented engineering team, then Cisco can buy that company. And buying that company, Cisco...
Cheap price, of course.
Yeah, of course. And buying that company, Cisco also put a lot of attention to contract obligations to make sure that key folks from that company will not leave Cisco until at least 2 years for being able to transfer, to integrate engineering team into fully transfer development process and intellectual properties. So that's actually main criteria for buying. So good engineering team, mental compatibility, and possibility to integrate into existing, I would say, security portfolio and approach, and definitely retaining the team, because otherwise buying has no value for the company.
So now, guys, we know their security nightmares, and we know what they are looking for. Is one ready to say, I am ready to sell company? Okay, question? Introduction.
Меня зовут Сергей Кренделев, я заведующий лабораторией Новосибирского государственного университета и работаю еще в компании Parallels. У меня вопрос как у преподавателя и вопрос к Сергею Ходакову. Вот поскольку вы там руководитель безопасными информационными технологиями, вопрос, вы как-нибудь отслеживаете, скажем, учебные заведения, институты, ну типа там Институт системных исследований РАН там, и так далее, на предмет, что кто-нибудь создает какую-нибудь технологию, теоретически, которая вам пригодится для безопасных информационных технологий. Вот. У меня вопрос к вам. Вот как и зачем вы это, ну, каким образом наследовать? Ну, аналогичный вопрос к Михаилу Кадеру, насколько я понимаю, он русский понимает. Вот, потому что меня удивительно, я бы скажу, почему это вопрос. Я просто общаюсь с коллегами, ну, из других вузов, так сказать, которые занимаются информационной безопасностью. Вот. Самое смешное, что стоит опубликовать статью, приходят предложения от китайцев, индийцев, поляков. И ни одного русского, советского человека нет. Был единственный раз, мне человек написал, потом куда-то исчез. Спрашивал, что такое гомоморфное шифрование. Не знаю, кто его купил, но мне просто интересно, как это отслеживать. Потому что я знаю, что в других вот фондах инвестиционных, ну, в частности, я вот в Китае работал, в Китае точно, там есть люди, которые специально отслеживают, вот у нас есть тема, я специально отслеживаю, так сказать, где в мире это делается, ему не важно, так сказать, важно, что делается. Да. У меня вопрос, как это отслеживается?
Смотрите, ну вот, значит, мы больше в этом плане взаимодействуем.
Sorry for a very long question and discussion, so but
Should I answer in English or in
English,
Russian?
please. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, we have collaboration with Institute and Russian Academy of Science. So basically, we visit all the institute and explain what activities, what kind of activities, what kind of help, what kind of support we can provide for them. But if we're talking from your point of view that you have technology and basically waiting that we are come to you and say that, okay, this technology is great, so let's start to develop. It can work, but basically it's our human resources are limited. So basically we would wait that you start to collaborate with us.
Okay, so I will continue questions. So since we need to speak about how many people, how many guys here have the companies? Just few companies? Come on. Who would like to bring companies to a global market? Okay, so question, since it is our main topic. My question to Jeff and to you. Actually, what's the difficulties and what's the actually trick to bring company from tiny technological market, since I consider Russia still tiny technological markets, just 3-5% from global market, and Israeli market also very small. So what's the trick and difficulties to bring companies from local market to global, especially in security area?
So I think you guys, with respect, you guys need to say, we have smart guys, we can do engineering, and we will do a fine job. We have no question of that. But you need to say, I cannot grow this company here. For many reasons, it's just difficult. And that is much easier. We have a phrase internal to our company where we say it is much easier to hire a VP of marketing in Santa Clara than it is to hire a VP of marketing here. And the reason is very simple. There's a gigantic pool of talent in Silicon Valley for all of the functions that you can't do. The things that you do, engineering, designing new algorithms, making new system, fantastic. But do you want to hire a guy who can be global VP of marketing for a billion-dollar company? He is not here. He is there. Unfortunately, it is a fact of life. And so the way to grow these companies is to say, we will do our expertise here, and then say one critical phrase, I know what I do not know. That is what we look for, guys who say, I know what I do not know. And it is not that you are stupid, you don't know something. It's that I need a VP of marketing. That's what you go to VC for. Go help me, find that guy. Because the growth is going to come from hiring world-class team of guys who are all the things that are not. Marketing, sales, support, all those guys. You need them to be world-class also.
I absolutely agree. And just two comments about that question. First of all, we come from Israel. So we invest in Israeli-related technology, but not just. So one of our biggest exits was actually a Swedish company that we invested in the seed round. Swedish company that we took and actually migrated most of the company's management to the US. Okay, and that's also another critical element. You keep the engineering where the engineering is best, okay, but you make sure that the business management is where the market is, okay, and that's just to chime on Jeff's point. But so in Israel, we're a small market. We're 8 million people, and unfortunately, we also don't have a regional market that we can cater for because of the geopolitical situation, obviously. So we need to think global from day one. Even when we do seed investments, okay, we always try to, even before we invest, identify the go-to-market partner, identify the advisors, identify the consultants that can join the company, that maybe later on can join in full-time, as a full-time position once the company starts to ramp up and release its beta product. So it's critical that you do that as early as possible. Don't sit in your lab for 12, 18 months thinking that you're building the best product around, only to find out 12 or 18 months later that the market has changed, okay? Continuously engage with the market. So that's one comment I wanted to say. The other comment is that, if you look historically on, specifically in cybersecurity, then geographies like Israel, like Russia, were very difficult to create category leaders in cybersecurity. Reason being that the market, the buyers, okay, Western Europe, North America especially, were hesitant to engage with, for obvious reasons, to engage with Israeli or Russian companies, okay? Now, fortunately for all of us, the US has done a remarkable job, okay, in changing that, okay? So the NSA and other such like organizations have done a remarkable job in actually opening up additional markets for Israeli and for Russian technologies. And I think that if you look back and
Thank
see,
you, Mr. Snowden, yes?
Snowden revealed some of that, but the NSA, they did a remarkable job independently of Snowden. So I think that from that respect, there's a lot of potential, okay, to actually create today excellent world category leaders that have the engineering or the initial product idea actually come from Russia or from Israel, okay, serving markets that before were not accessible for such companies.
So let me add to that. The function of intelligence agencies can sometimes be turned to your advantage, which is to use them to say you're okay. So do you know what the largest user of backup programs from a Russian backup company is? Pentagon. Do you know that the largest the largest usage of data leakage protection from the military in the US is from a Russian company? Because they were very smart. Before they tried to sell, they said, please certify us. Okay. So the guys went out and certified them. And then any government bureaucrat says, no, NSA says it's okay. If it's not okay, they can blame them, not me. Okay, fine, done. So the key is get some other bureaucrat to put a stamp on so that you don't have to certify it. So the same thing applies to privacy. We have many companies that are concerned about privacy. When people say, oh, Russian company, privacy, oh my God. So what we do is we say, go to Germany, make sure that you meet German regulations for privacy, and let the Germans take the fall for the privacy, not you. All right? So, and it works. We have a company that we did not do. They keep track of Android variations. That's all they do. Android variation by mobile platform, by carrier, by network. Do you know how many combinations that is? It's near Avogadro's number, big number. So, but what they did is they went to Germans first, and they said, can you certify us as meeting EU privacy? Well, of course. Okay. Now they have no problem.
Yeah, let me just give you a very hypothetical story, okay? So, the Snowden incident, okay? He was a third-party system administrator, contractor, that was given privileges, okay? Because he cleared all the checkups and whatever the tests, okay? But no one really monitored what he does, okay? And when he dumped, significant amount of data, okay? He was okay. He was under his privileges. He didn't violate any cybersecurity policy, rule, whatever that was in place at the NSA. So before that happened, we hypothetically, one of our companies, CyberArk, has a solution for that. Okay, has a solution to identify anomaly in the misuse of privileged accounts. Okay, and so the various U.S. agencies, found it very hard to rely on such a technology coming from Israel. And I can tell you that today, some of these entities are definitely one of the largest customers of CyberArk's technology. So that's an interesting change that is actually happening in the market today.
So, but actually, when I spoke with someone from your venture fund, they told that it is not easy to move security companies from Israel to States, since nobody trusts too much. Well, not so many people trust too much to Israelis as well as for Russians. Yeah, so with some security companies. So, and they told me about trick to buy a shell company in. How it is working out? Tell us.
All those tricks, okay, they don't work. Okay, so it's just a waste of time and money and some, financial, supposedly wizards that are trying to sell you their goods and their services and so forth. So we don't, you're an Israeli company or a Russian company. You should be proud of that. You have the best technology in your category. Find the right people in the US, okay, to help you market it, to help you sell it, to help you with the business development. Find the right partner. So we actually put a lot of emphasis on finding the right go-to-market partners. So for example, in most of our cybersecurity company, we have a strategic partner from the market that is either a value-added reseller. Sometimes they're also a co-investor. So for example, over the last year or so, I did co-investments with the likes of General Electric for critical infrastructure, Siemens, Intel, EMC, and a variety of other companies. In our fund, we have LPs that come from the market. So for example, Cisco is an LP in our fund.
As well in our fund too.
Yeah, Alibaba, which is, doesn't need any introduction, is also an LP in our fund, coming from a completely different category, but they also have tremendous cybersecurity, fraud, and such related needs. So we that's all those financial trickery and shell companies and parent and subsidiary and BVI companies and all of that. That doesn't work. Okay, but what does work is to get the right partners on board. There are certain government contracts which are awarded to entities that are domiciled in certain, but that's not trickery. You can establish a subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary, and you're not concealing it, just to check the box in terms of the contracts or whatever procurement process.
But I have to add one thing to agree. What my not advice, because I just see some of this stuff happening. EMC and IBM never, not once, ever have purchased a company that they have not been a partner with. Never, not once. Because they want to sell that product, see how it works to their customers. Once it's proven, now it's no-brain to be able to buy that company. Cisco is not exactly the same, but I will let you speak about that. But so what you guys, to emphasize, what you guys should do is find a partner and let that partner break down barriers for you. As a little company, it's too hard to break down barriers. But when Cisco or EMC or Intel comes to a company and says, hey, look, these guys are fine. We have 5,000 support engineers. We'll take care of it. But also they're certified that we use them internally is the biggest argument. We use them across our company. Then people say, okay, I don't care where it comes from. Maybe you want.
Yeah, Michael?
So I'd like to tell a couple of words about Cisco buying companies. So in the most of a lot of companies which Cisco bought got initial investment from Cisco, but or directly or through different venture funds. But in the most of cases, that company were not our technological partners. So it was just like point of investment. And another interesting story, when Cisco is buying one of that company, again, Cisco can be internal user of the products of that company or not, but after buying and adapting their product line, Cisco became the user of that products. So all the products which we are trying to sell, some kind of, internally proven, and they are under development also based on the responses from our internal IT and security folks. But again, we are buying usually niche companies with great technologies, with probably previous investment, but usually not partners, not technology partners.
Okay, so any questions again? But questions, please. Someone has question or not? No questions. Okay, so I need to. You have question. Okay.
I have a question for you guys. So we spend a lot of time trying to find what we think are we don't look at threats. We look at categories of risk, which is what companies look at. When I talk to the guy who is the chief security officer for PayPal, he does not look at risks. He's a very smart guy named Eric Martin, and he looks at category of risk. So he says, you know what? The biggest category we have is the back-end payments, the transaction systems. That's what I need to focus on. He doesn't read the CVEs. He doesn't do that. He focuses on categorization and then reduction of risk. So let me ask you guys, which is, rather than a purely technical solution, how do you have any ideas or companies where you could go and say, you know what, I address a category of problems. I don't address one thing. I don't address buffer overflows. I address the fact that you are unable to connect your external employees to the internal network without making the internal network open. Remote access. I do a whole category of risk. Do you guys think in categories? Do you think in broad strokes as opposed to small? And it is not critical, is a question. What do you think is the focus here? Small or big?
Is anyone ready to answer?
It's not a test. It's not like in school where they say, no, it is not a test, but you get a D. No, it's okay.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Stefan. I'm from Warm Company. What we do, we protect web applications from hacker attacks. So we're based in Moscow, but we are, of course, we are looking on the global scale from the day one. So it was our strategy. No Russian site even. Yeah. Of course, we don't think only in terms of threats. It is very. It is not the good thing when you come to the customer and say, hey, you have the website, you have some applications that are, publicly available on the network perimeter, so you need to protect it. And this is obvious for everyone, so this is not the thing we try to sell them. So, but we try to analyze their risks in terms of what can happen in terms of this company, from this category of the companies, if there will be data breach or there will be some anomalous activities inside their infrastructure. So we try to think what can be the impact if their applications or some web infrastructure will be hacked. And in this case, we try to show our value here. And after that, we try to compare and try to understand what solutions our company has, what previous background was. We are in security consulting for 7 years. Yeah. So we know how to hack applications, and we tried to help a lot of companies, really A-class companies in Russia to improve their security here, and to help them to build this process, because we believe that everything about security is a process. If there is no process, there will be no security. You can buy a lot of product, this product, this product, this product, but if they are not connected to each other, if these products are not connected to the people that work in this company, there will be no security, and there will be data breach or something else anywhere. So we tried a lot of products. We tried a lot of approaches to improve the companies, and we now try to sell our products in comparison to the problems they have with the different approaches. And this works. So right now we work in A-class internet companies here, in big enterprises, And we have several pilots even in the United States. We don't have sales there even in our marketing team, but we have pilots because we can.
So let me give you a comment,
Yeah.
which is, do you know how software companies work? Because you write the code once and you sell 100,000 copies, and that is called leverage. We also, from my discussion yesterday with Whit Diffie about cryptography, one of the things he taught me many years ago, this is white here, from decades ago, was cryptography is a process of amplification, where a very small piece of data can affect a very large amount of data. So what we were looking for, and I'm not critical, what we were looking for is, rather than consulting, we were looking for you guys to make, out of what you're doing, a product where it is automated so that you get the leverage. So instead of having to need 1,000 guys for 1,000 companies, 2 guys can produce the software that affect 10,000 companies, because then the margin is 80% versus 15%.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll just add one data point here. So, as I said, we see about 300 companies. We saw about 300 companies in cyber over the last 24 months, and we keep statistics as to where the entrepreneurs come from, what's their background. And obviously, we have your usual suspects, hackers, and so forth that found their own companies, and that's great. And Israel has many of these, as I'm sure Russia has as well. But what gets us excited really are entrepreneurs that come from a cybersecurity service provider background. Okay, so they have been dealing in the space for 5, 6, 10 years. Okay, they know their customers intimately. Okay, they know the category intimately. They know exactly what are the problems their customers are facing. In fact, they solved some of that and by providing professional services to, as you do, to those customers. But now, what they're trying to do is to productize their knowledge. Okay, is to actually come and put all that all that knowledge, all that know-how into a product. These are the companies that are the most interesting for us. When we encounter such a, and Jeff talked earlier about the team being the most important, the technology background and so forth. But another aspect of a good team is the fact that they know not just the solution domain but also the problem domain very intimately, and can really also in that respect be very capital efficient in deciding what is the roadmap for the product, what is the go-to market, which geographies they address first, which categories they address first. That's very important as well. And these are the companies that are most interesting to us.
In our practice, we have about 300 startups in IT in Skolkovo and 40 of them in cybersecurity. And basically what we see is that most of startups, they start its own business from consulting part of view. So basically they have great experience and they start provide consulting service. And from one point they decided to make a product and basically change company a lot. So basically change a lot of business processes, change a lot of people and skills they need to make a change from consulting business to basically product business. And when this company pass this period successfully, they start to provide really great results. From that point of view, it's just a critical point for any startup. And I also believe that we see a lot of companies that start going abroad. And most of them, the basic way just to find right partner, right people, maybe some small, but anyway, they need local office usually, and it's just crucial step. We have some companies, they have international client, but they have legal entity in Russia only. But basically, this company has very specific product for very small market. Maybe market $100 million, but basically it's very few clients. It's very targeted market. If a company decided to sell product for broad market, it's basically the company needs a partner and or representative office.
Yeah, I just wanted to add how we target different companies. So I represent ERP Scan. My name is Alexander. What we do software to secure business applications. It's like SAP and Oracle mission-critical business applications. And it's only what we do. We have representatives in Australia, Copenhagen, Amsterdam, and a little bit in the US, and still challenging. So what we do, we know that there are risks like, for example, espionage, sabotage, and fraud for companies in general. Then we're looking for industries, like we have oil and gas. In oil and gas, companies use those types of business applications to manage operations, cyber-carbon supply chain, or something else. For those types of operations, we're telling them what are the risks for those types of operations. And we do the same for different industries and for their products that they use, and we target and telling them what are specific risks for their industries, for their products.
You asked about, I'm Eugene from Cybersonica, you heard about us yesterday. So you talk about focusing not on threats, just focusing on problems, on huge problems. So in addition to your sample of PayPal transaction processing, every payment company care about money safety, yeah? But if this company will think like, okay, so let me think about 2 minutes. Okay, you can process it. So you should care about a lot of things, just safety, speed, or some data sources from where you can get some information about maybe loyalty and reality of transaction source and about fraudulent of this transaction. So the main problem is to maybe detect some right directions of choosing the development, choosing the right maybe a way to develop some maybe global and right system to improve all aspects of the problem. So that's it.
So we have only 10 minutes, and we started from nightmare, and we'll finish with nightmare. So, so idea is about soon, possibly most of us will agree to have chip on the skin, since we'll take care about health, about something. And world will change completely. So what's the nightmare we expect to get in 3, 5, 10 years from security and privacy point of view? That is, this guy's moving IoT, yes? So IoT everywhere. So it means that we will be all linked to threats. So
as Whittiffy said yesterday, the balance of the needs of the state versus the needs of the individual for privacy and such are going to be severely tested. And we have a company that makes streetlights. And each street light has a single board Linux computer and 30 sensors on board, each light. So we have decided very consciously not to send we bring all the data back to the cloud, and people write analytic apps. So we've decided to anonymize and single blind the data to keep the personal information secret. But not everyone does this. And so, for example, one of the applications that someone wrote against our data cloud for this company is, from the moment you step out of your car in the shopping mall, we track your footsteps, and we watch which store you go into. And we know then that if that store has a sale or an ad, you probably went in that store for that reason. Therefore, we sell that information to the store as an anti-Amazon defense. That's today. So if you think 5 years out, and you think that we can do time-based correlation across various data sources, we can get a lot of information which you can't hide. It is impossible to hide. And that is very worrisome, because you can build all kinds of analytics that essentially make the society compressed.
Yeah, I'll before I get worried about those chips that will be embedded under our skins, I think we have a more shorter term things to worry about. I'll give you two of the things that we are very concerned with, and I think that they're solvable from a technology perspective, hard, but solvable. But I think that the market economics will make it almost impossible to actually solve for that. And I'll give you 2 examples. The first one is the critical infrastructure, in particular energy production facility. And we're, as I mentioned, working very closely with some of the leading companies in the space. And certain technologies exist to help improve the situation dramatically. But I think that the market dynamics from economical or financial perspective are just such that will not allow those technologies to actually reach wide-scale implementation over the next few years. And that's a major issue, in my opinion. That's one thing. The second thing, which also suffers from market, I would say, dynamics that will impair the ability to come up with the right solutions, is in the automotive sector. And I think that, again, relatively simple technologies, CAN bus kind of environments, and the problems are not overly complex compared to other computing environment, but just the dynamics and the supply chain of the automotive industry is going to make it very hard to have widespread implementation of such technologies over the next few years. And most of the cars sold today are very vulnerable to attacks. So I think that these are 2 of the threats that, in my opinion, even before we get to those privacy-related chips under your skin kind of thing, keeps us awake at night.
I believe that, first of all, the society will be really compressed with all these privacy things, but basically all the information we have, we should think that this information will likely be public. It doesn't matter if this information about health, about anything, it can be, the leakage can happen at any time. So basically, I believe that it will be a kind of change in the mind of people that will finally we will have to accept it. Basically, there is no way to hide from technology, no way to hide your own behavior, no way to hide, at least, and to be sure that you hide everything. It's so likely that this information will leak sometime.
Actually, to respond to
It will be your wife. It is for sure. Yes.
No. So to respond to that question, so very short quiz for you folks. Who of you is buying something on internet shops? Please raise your hands. Everybody. Who is that moment is really taking care about your privacy and how your data will be used? Raise your hand again. Okay, a couple of, actually, so significantly less folks. And we are on the security conference talking to security folks. So really, folks are thinking about easier of doing, like regular things like business, shopping, car driver, navigation system, etc. So they generate, as Sasha said, great amount of data, so big data analytics, very hot topic today, but they don't really care about their privacy. So that's why, so I'm personally actually a very big fan of privacy, but unfortunately big data analytics will win. And that's just reality.
Okay, so we need to finalize. I would like to thank you to the guys who participated, and in addition, I would like, since we all who connected to local Wi-Fi. I mean, no one. Okay, great. So you can keep your phone working. So you don't need to throw them. So good luck.
So actually, back to Sasha's question, I don't even take my laptop to Positive Hacking Days conference.
Me too. I have only one phone, not connected.
It's for sale. It's for sale.
Okay, thank you, guys.